Hello, and welcome to Marktoon's Doodles. This episode we're going to be concentrating on video game characters, starting with Boo, one of the characters from the Nintendo franchise. We start with a round body and a little bit of an elongated tail underneath the round body. I'm positioning the eyes on the front side of the face and deciding where to put the eyebrows. So the face will be turned slightly to the right, as you can see. Positioning the mouth as well. Big open mouth with the tongue hanging out. The teeth. There's two primary teeth and two little teeth in between, and two little wing segments or arm segments, I guess, that stick out of the body. And that's the basics of the character done. We can now start to ink in the details. Boos have been common characters in the Mario games from as far back as 1988. And then they started being playable characters in some of the later spin-offs, like Mario Kart and Super Mario Bros. Just small little triangle shapes for the teeth. And then we can just fill in the tonsils and color in the rest of the mouth black. Now try and get a nice round circle for the rest of the body. Starting with the tail section and moving all the way around. Try and keep that nice round flowing shape. And finish off the tail section. And you can just do the little wings. And that's him done. Of course, if you want to make King Boo, then you just need to add a crown. And remember to add in those little diamonds into the crown. There you go. Now we've got King Boo. All we need to do is add a little bit of color and we're done. Next up, we're going to try Sonic the Hedgehog from the Sega franchise. So with Sonic, we start with a nice round shape for the head. He's got a bean-shaped mouth with a little pill-shaped nose. The eyes are quite large and aren't quite separated from one another. His pupils are also elongated. He's got a little ear over the left eye. The spines come out at the top of his head and then join to sort of the end of his head. He's got a little round body. Spindly little arms with hands that have gloves on them. Quite small little legs. And then of course he's wearing some socks and his little sneakers or trainers. So here we're just firming out the eye contour. It's almost like the shape of an 8. And We're just smoothing around the mouth areas, making sure the nose is visible, and his little smile. The ear extends kind of from the eye line, so you want it to look like it's a natural flow from the one eye. And the same on the other side of his head. We want the ears to line up. On his gloves, there's sort of the wrist area of the glove, which is a fold of sorts, and then going into the gloves and the little fingers. In this case, he's pointing, so we'll just draw one of the fingers extended. The other hand is kind of almost like folded on itself because he's resting it up against his waist. Just making sure the spines do extend up his back as well. They're really thin little arms. Once we're happy with the sort of general layout of his head and just firming up some of the lines, we can then get on to the important bit, which is getting our Sharpie marker out and doing the inking. Don't forget to add the little stripes on his sneakers, of course. So, as I'm inking in the details here, quite interesting fact about our little friend Sonic was that he didn't start out being a hedgehog. In actual fact, he was supposed to be a rabbit. Sega were so desperate to create a character that would rival the success and appeal of Nintendo's Mario that early drafts of their new hero envisioned him as a rabbit that could grasp things and fight with prehensile ears. But they quickly realized that this design would be too technologically difficult to pull off, and that having a character who would pick up and throw things would slow the game's fast pace. So they actually shifted their sights somewhat, and that's when little Sonic the Hedgehog was born. And funnily enough, his name wasn't always Sonic. Even after Sega had settled on the Hedgehog as their character, the designer Naoto Oshima tried a taxonomically confusing name called Mr. Needle Mouse. Anyway, thankfully, what we eventually got was Sonic. What you should also be able to notice in Sonic's appearance is that they gathered a number of pop culture icons in his creation. The designer Oshima used Felix the Cat's head and Mickey Mouse's body for Sonic's basic likeness. And interestingly, the boots from the Michael Jackson's Bad album sleeve were what inspired old Sonic's patented footwear. I guess what Sega were hoping for was that by making Sonic seem a little bit more familiar to people, he would prove to be more popular. And I guess they probably were right. So just making sure the spines are connected to the back there, and we can just finish off his legs and his cool little socks with the folds in them, and then his little sneakers, just like that, and add the little stripes on them, and he's ready. Now we just got to add some color and Sonic's good to go.
Come on, let's get going. What's wrong? Are you tired? Just a few more.
The next game character I've chosen to draw is my favorite little dinosaur from the Nintendo franchise, Yoshi. Now, the first feature you're going to notice on Yoshi is his big bulbous nose. He's got two eyes on the top, a cheek, a little mouth area, and then his body is almost like a little banana shape ending in a point. So that's what I've drawn here. Big nose, cheek, and the little banana shaped or banana pointed shaped body. I've also given him some little arms, or where the arms are going to go, and just making sure that I'm happy with how his body is proportioned. Adding little knees, nostrils in his nose, giving him a couple of eyelids and some pupils. With so many round shapes on Yoshi, he's actually quite easy to draw. You've just got to keep your eye on the sort of circular shapes you're drawing. He has 3 large spikes on his nape, so we must include those, and of course he's got a saddle on his back as well. Now, I've just wasn't very happy with that initial shape of his body, so I've just rubbed it out. I'm going to start again and just get that gentle curve round. I want the point to end a little bit further back, and that's perfect. Just drawing in his knees again, and then filling in his little boots that he wears. Now, Yoshi doesn't wear gloves, so we just have to draw his hands in little fists, or with his fingers extended, like he's waving. We just make sure all the proportions are nice and smooth and round, and just neatening up some of the lines. And now we can start inking. Believe it or not, Yoshi's real name is T. Yoshisaur Munchakoopas. Now, that might seem like a very scientific name that befits a little dinosaur like Yoshi, but it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. Not like Yoshi. Yoshi has a long tongue that can be used to eat almost anything. I haven't drawn it sticking out in this picture. He can also beat his enemies by producing eggs and throwing them in their direction. He is most commonly green, but there have been red, yellow, blue, pink, purple, brown, black, white, and orange Yoshis that sometimes have special skills. I'm now drawing in the section of his cheek that would be white, and just giving the mouth some definition. While I'm drawing the hand here, you'll notice that I'm paying particular attention to the spacing of the fingers so that they're splayed out, showing his palm and the arm down to where it connects to the saddle on his back. Then drawing his little point-shaped body, again the banana shape, but probably start with the knees just because they stick out a bit there. And now let's fill in that banana curve that forms his body and tail. And then we can finish off the knees. Also start doing the boots. We put the little lip of the boots there first. And then draw in the rest of the footwear. Yoshi also has a stomach area which is different from the rest of the coloring on him. And we finish off with a little fist. And then spikes on the back of his head. You can't see the third one because it's hidden behind his arm. And now we can add some color, and then it's time to hear why I love little Yoshi so much, because of the noise he makes when he's upset. And now it's time to move on to that legend of the video game world, Donkey Kong. We start with a big circle for the head, a slightly smaller circle for the chest area, and an even smaller circle for his hips. He's got two short little legs and some long arms, which we've got resting on the floor. I'm also now drawing in a second circle under the head that will form part of his jaw, and adding in his eyes, which are halfway down the face. I'm drawing his ears slightly higher than his eye line level, just keeping everything nice and spherical for now, but creating a rough skeleton outline for the rest of the figure. So now start giving more shape to the jaw area. It's got a little bulge on the one side where his cheek bulges out. He's also got these sort of thicker eyebrow section to the eyes and a little tuft of hair on top. Now I'm going to start adding some more details to the arms, including the muscles of the upper arm and the forearm, and where the fur ends at his wrist and the skin of his hand start. And I've made little fists of his hands because he's resting on his fists as he stands there. Drawing the hindquarter section with the little legs and his back feet, which you can show the toes for. And then also kind of finishing off the body connecting to the head. Adding some nostrils to the nose area. Just making sure my eye line and ear line is exactly where I want it to be. And now we can start drawing the other hind leg, which is partially hidden behind one of his forearms. Just getting his tie as well. Donkey Kong wears his fantastic tie with his initials on it, DK. And we're just about ready to start inking. Make a few final adjustments to the eyes, and then we grab the Sharpie and we can start inking in Donkey Kong. Now I've broken my usual rule of starting with the eyes because I just wanted to get the little fold in the ear correct. But now returning to the eyes, I'm just starting with the eyebrow line above it and then drawing the eyeballs themselves. With the little pupils, and he's looking down. Now the jaw looks a bit tricky, but it's actually quite simple. Just follow carefully the sort of outline of almost like a clamshell. You can put the nostrils in, and there we go. Now his hairline does come down from his ear, so I've added that in, and then the rest of his head goes down to the jaw. Also add the tuft of hair on the top of his head. And then start doing the rest of his body. The curve of his arm muscles down to where his fur ends on his forearms. And then extending his back down to his hips and his knees. And the toes on his rear foot. And now it's time to do his fists that he's leaning on. You just show the knuckles on the front of his fist. And the same for his other arm. Except on this side you can see more of the thumb. And parts of the fingers on the other side. And then his tie. Now, I was very fortunate to have played the original Donkey Kong arcade game that was produced in 1981. But he's since been a character in many of the Nintendo franchise games, including Mario Kart, which is where this version of Donkey Kong comes from. In the world of arcade games and video game history in general, this little gorilla is known worldwide as one of the true originals. So let's add some color to him right now, and then he can tell you himself how happy he is to be such an iconic symbol. Yeah, okay, thanks for that, Donkey Kong. I think he was calling out that he needed a plumber. So let's see if we can help him with that. It's time to draw Mario. With a big circle for a head, a little circle for his nose, and I'm doing a little positioning of the eyes here to make sure they're facing the right direction. And we can add his characteristic mustache. The ear and the ear fold are on the same line as the eyes, or in line with the eyes, I should have said. A little mouth that's open, showing a little bit of his tongue. And now a little circle for his body. I'm doing the classic Mario from the original video games, so his body's a lot smaller. His cap has stayed fairly constant. Just drawing in the top of the cap and the brim as well, which curves slightly over the eye line and then comes back to the head. And then the top of the cap curves down and there's a little dip, and then we have the back of the cap. He's also got his letter M for Mario at the front of his cap. I'm keeping his pupils nice and simple and not doing fully fledged eyes. And he's got some sideburns that stick out under his cap. Then just make sure the bottom of his face is nice and round. Reposition the mouth if we need to. Add some skeleton arms to work on. Now I'm going to have him wearing gloves. So thin little arms leading into the gloves. And we'll just have him holding his fist up. Draw his dungarees that he wears with the little buttons on the front. And then just some very simple little boots with just a hint of his knees. And then we're ready to ink. Now, Mario was originally created by Shigeru Miyamoto, and he appeared in the game designer's first ever title, the 1981 arcade platformer Donkey Kong. Mario was originally known as Jumpman. However, when Nintendo's US office were trying to think of a better name in time for the American release of the game, they were interrupted by their landlord Mario Segale, after whom they christened the character. And he was originally meant to be a carpenter, not a plumber. His look is very much dictated to by the graphical limitations of the hardware at the time. So he has a hat because realistic hair was difficult to portray. And the dungarees make his arm movements more noticeable. It's since been determined that in the early 90s, he was more recognizable by most American children than Mickey Mouse. And little Mario has appeared in well over 200 different video games. As we're inking in the arm here, I'm just going to explain how we do the gloves. So we start with the cuffs, which have a sort of a rolled effect, and then go into the main part of the hand. We're just showing the fist here, so you just want to show a little bit of the thumb and part of the finger, and then you can have the little holes in the back of the glove. I'm going to then complete the dungarees, just slowly showing how they fit on the body with the little buttons on the front, and then complete the bottom part of the dungarees, which lead to the little knees he's got, and then into the boots. And the same on the other side for his foot that he's actually got raised. You can draw it slightly smaller. And then his other arm leading to another set of cuffs for the glove. And in this case we're actually going to show the thumb of the fist and then draw the folded fingers underneath the thumb. There we go. There's a little trick I've used here where you draw the other hand slightly smaller as well as the other foot slightly smaller so that it looks like it's actually further away from us. And now, because I've drawn the classic version of Mario, I'm going to go and slightly thicken all of the lines of his main features, like the nose, the head, his cap, and just give them all a slightly thicker line to accentuate each of the features. Now, you could do this to any of your drawings or doodles as you like. I don't usually thicken up my lines like this, but I felt for little Mario, and the fact that this was the classic representation of his character, I wanted to go for the original look and feel. Since 1995, the voice of Mario has been provided by American voice actor Charles Martinet. So let's add some color and let Mario celebrate his success.
Mamma mia! Mario win! Woohoo! Oh yeah! Mario #1!
Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Goodbye.